appearance on Dion's Daily Dose does not imply endorsement from or by any candidate or guest. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by Dion Bergeron or Dion's Daily Dose are his own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of any guest. Material and information presented is for general information purposes only. The Dion's Daily Dose name in all forms and abbreviations are the property of its owners, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service. If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I felt the need to go live just to address something that is, oh my God. So today, one of the LaPorte County commissioners, Connie Gramarossa, went on to a paid political advertisement for WIMS, which is their right to do so. They gotta make money just like anybody else. She went on there, and rather than taking this opportunity to inform us about local government, to tell us what's going on, to refute some of the claims that have been made against her, she chose to devote an hour to whining, crying, and complaining about people that, according to her, have it out for her, right? Her so-called political opponents. What I find really, really fascinating, there's a whole lot to unpack here. But what I find really, really fascinating is the fact that these so-called political rivals are the same political party she purports to be. She says she's a Republican. I'm not so sure anymore. There's a lot to get into. First of all, the sheer volume of mispronunciations, just overall is it's infuriating. It's infuriating as someone who I'm a little bit more I guess particular when it comes to language, as some people are. So not everyone is going to care about this, but I do. I'm just going to throw a sprinkling out there. September instead of September. September. Municipalities. She says layman's ter instead of layman's terms. Munt. Multiple times she's talking about crimes, right? She says misdemeanor instead of misdemeanor. I guess a misdemeanor is worse than a misdemeanor, but not quite as strong as a felony. I'm guessing. Is it kind of maybe one of our current law enforcement officials can chime in and tell us what a misdemeanor is. Instead of texts, it's text. Instead of madness, it's manness. It's really, really disturbing listening to this unhinged rant. A couple of the takeaways from this. So one of the things that I personally found really, really interesting was she is apparently a big fan of Rich Mrzinski now. When just last year she was calling him a racist. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure on the same radio station that she was just on today, she went on and on about how he was a racist and said that because she had a Mexican dad, all kinds of stuff, man. Like it's really wild. She also talks about how Joe Haney, another LaPorte County commissioner, allegedly wants us to expose us to liability. Which is really, really funny because how many it's a hilarious statement coming from Courtroom Connie. How many lawsuits are we involved in now in LaPorte County because of this woman? I've lost count. I know we got at least 4. She does bring up the fact, she says, by the way, that Joe Haney hired Al Stevens, which he interviewed them, as did all the commissioners. You had to have a 2-to-1 majority. So who was the other one? She says Joe is more worried about lawsuits how many lawsuits now involve Courtroom Connie, Commie Connie. There's tons of nicknames for her here in LaPorte County. I would probably take the majority of the show if I were to go through them all. She does try to throw shade on Tim Stabos, who she says is, I guess, in her mind, not doing the job of auditor. What's really amusing is that Tim Stabos actually was the single biggest donor to her campaign, other than herself, right? She put the most money in the campaign, followed by Tim Stabos. So when she says, going back to 2021, that Tim and Joe were together, why would they back her if they hated her? She also makes the claim that Tim, after donating to her campaign, assumed that he owned her, which is really hilarious. Tim, I've known Tim for a few years, and Tim doesn't believe he owns anyone. At worst, Tim expects you to work for the people. That's why he donated to her campaign. But I mean, he can deal with that himself. She can't talk. She can't spell. She can't read. It's really, really sad when you look at it from a move from a perspective of a voter here in LaPorte County. When you see this, and this is the representation that we have. Yeah, Dusty mentions Tim is not scary. He's not. He is not someone that that if he donated to my campaign, I would assume that I owed him anything. She said about just trashing any Republican she could, but I do want to get to one thing in particular because I think it's really important. She did throw out some names, which keep in mind, right? So in my opinion, at least me personally, whomever Connie backs, I want no part of them. I want no part of anybody connected to her, anybody she has kind words about. Guilty by association, maybe. I'm okay with that. She had a lot of good things to say about Marty Smith. Now, I don't know Marty Smith. I don't know anything about the guy. Can't vote for him. Steve Hollifield. She had a lot of really good things to say about Steve Hollifield. Both of them are running in the primary with Tim Stabos. Now, I wonder why she would be nice about them and not about her or about, Tim Stabos. So there are a couple of interesting points here that I think are really, really important. First of all, she makes the point or makes the claim that Tim Stabos is against no bid contracts, except when it comes to his office. Quote, Stabos has quite a few little contracts in his office. First of all, okay, what evidence is there on this? Just because you have a stack of papers doesn't mean there's anything on it. Number two, anything under a certain amount is automatically no bid, you raving lunatic. That's just the way that it is. Certain contracts are just in order to facilitate a county government moving forward. You don't need to have a bid on small contracts. Unfortunately, the 22-minute-ish mark, she gets into a lawsuit that is going on, and I can't comment on that except to say she claims that the auditor had said what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Now, what does this mean? Well, Auditor Stabos is being sued by Shaw Friedman. And why is he being sued? Because Auditor Stabos wants itemized billing. He wants to know why LaPorte County taxpayer money is being sent to this firm. I think that's a perfectly reasonable request. Well, Shaw Friedman sued Tim Stabos for not just rubber stamping all his bills. So what happened was Commissioner Gramarossa and Commissioner Mrzinski said, sorry, you're being sued in an individual capacity, so we're not responsible for your bills. Okay, well, I'm here to tell you Commissioner Gramarossa and Commissioner Mrozinski are being sued in their personal capacity as well as professional. I confirm this. I know a little bit about it, being one of the plaintiffs. So let's see here. We got a comment. It says anything over 150,000. I believe it used to be 250,000. Yeah, it goes out to bid. So little things like, for example, we need copies. Copy machine's broken. We're going to go get these done, right? You don't need to go through an entire bid process for little stuff. Otherwise, the county would screech to a halt. Little stuff does not require a bid. Now, this is an individual who has been in county government for a little while now. She should know this. But again, there's a lot of factually inaccurate statements. I mean, it's a little far to go outright lie, but they're incorrect. They're untrue. So, whatever that means. Now, she made the claim that Joe Haney, who, I'm just going to say it, is the hardest working commissioner I know. He is in the office every day. He has been busting his butt all during COVID. He was in the office. He was there for us. He constantly wants transparency and wants the taxpayers to know what's going on. She claims that Joe didn't spend any time in the office to learn the job. So I guess just him being there every day just didn't happen, right? What's really hilarious to me personally is that I've heard from multiple people that Connie, is only around during the first 30 minutes at the beginning of the day and the last 30 minutes at the end of the day, so that she can watch people go in and out. The rest of the day, nobody knows where she is. She brought up this $650,000 overpayment because of insurance. Quote, they need to come up here and explain it. Come up where? What the heck are you talking about? She also said he lost the presidency. What she meant to say was when she stabbed Joe Haney in the back and teamed up with the other not real Republican on the commission, Rich Mrozinski. I'm still curious what a misdemeanor is, but the single biggest that evoked an out loud laugh from me was her claim that Joe Haney makes work environments toxic. Now, I know from personal experience, it's not Joe Haney that's making work environments toxic. It is, and that goes directly to the people that say, "Oh, you shouldn't comment anonymously. You should comment with your name. You should talk." I have never commented anonymously. I go live under my own name. Everybody knows who I am locally. People are afraid in this county to speak up. I am not. I'm not afraid. But people it's cost them their jobs. There's multiple lawsuits right now where people who have been fired because of social media posts. I happen to know a little bit about that. Of course, people are going to comment anonymously. Dusty says, can we talk about the courthouse and how thrilled she was? She was put in charge of fixing it, and we're a year and a half into fixing it. She didn't put it out to bid, and she claimed that, of course, everything is Joe Haney's fault. Everything is Joe Haney's fault. When she called, she also gave props to Rosenbaum. So sorry, can't back you, Mike. Can't do it. Anytime Connie wants someone in office, that alone is reason enough for me to not vote for them. Same thing with Julianne Havens. Look, I have pictures of them together. I have pictures of Connie handing out stuff for Julianne Havens. If Connie wants Havens elected, I don't. It's just that simple. She went on and on about how she got maternity leave done, right? She was a commissioner before, which she was just bragging about. And she was also on the council for years. Why didn't you do it then? Why is it a big win now that you're commissioner again and got it done in her mind, despite Joe and the other stuff going on? She's so full of crap, I'm surprised she doesn't explode. She also mentions that credit cards got cut off. Her claim was that this was because of the auditor's office. The auditor's office is at fault. Well, the rumors, and I don't have any documentation for this, so it is what it is, but the rumors are that there were about $60,000 worth of charges from Amazon. Now, conveniently, time-wise, this is right about the time a particular pizza place opened. There sure are a lot of coincidences. She's so mad about the fact that Tim Stables won't just rubber stamp her bills to Shaw. Now, if you guys remember, one of her claims, one of her big things before she got elected was we have to get rid of Shaw Friedman. We have to get rid of Shaw Friedman. And it's the reason why Tim donated to her campaign. He didn't donate to her because he liked her. He donated to her because the claim was that she was going to get rid of the behind-the-scenes control that Shaw Friedman has over LaPorte County. What did she do once elected? Well, as soon as she turned on Joe, she backdoored Friedman. He's working on a whole bunch of stuff for the county. Just because he's not the commissioner's attorney anymore doesn't mean he's not getting paid by LaPorte County. Tens of thousands of dollars are still being funneled into his office. And if that's the kind of thing that you want here in LaPorte County, well, then vote for the people that county tells you to vote for. It is as simple as I can make it. Me personally, I'm for open government. I'm for transparency. I'm for accountability. I'm for not putting the taxpayer on the hook. That's just me. So I'm going to see if I can get a couple of people to go line by line with this unhinged rant and really pick it apart. But I did want to go live to address some of these spurious and ridiculous claims. Not because, look, I'm invested in this county's leadership insofar as I have to live here, right? But I don't work for the county. I don't make any money from the county. I don't get paid by taxpayers. I'm not involved at all. So whoever gets elected gets elected. But I'm not going to just stand idly by and let a so-called public servant spout lies and unhinged ranting. It might be a good idea to learn to read before you sit there and read directly off of a document. Just my personal opinion. She talks about how bad Joe was as president. What's interesting, again, is she was 100% behind Joe Haney until Joe Haney called her out for crashing the car. Now, I've heard some interesting rumors about that particular car crash, but again, I don't have any evidence yet. Once I do, I'll be more than happy to address that. There will be, Dusty says, might be better to learn to comprehend things, not just read. I don't know about you, but every time the commission comes to order and she says pledge allegiance, it infuriates me. I don't know how I don't know how anyone hasn't stood up and said, it's of. There's a word in the middle of that. It's of, pledge of allegiance. But, and it's a symptom of a much larger problem. Look, ladies and gentlemen, I can't urge you enough. Vote in the primary. Vote in the primary, and let's make sure that the people that are willing to stand up to her, because number one, if she's touting Novak, then that tells me Novak is not going to stand up to her. Not a chance. It's going to be business as usual, and we're not even going to have the luxury of Joe Haney at least bringing things to light. Everything's going to be rubber stamped and done. You can expect that if we're talking whoever the people that she wants on there, which is Hollyfield. What's the other guy? Smith. Dusty said, nah, he's going to tell her what to do. And yeah, I believe that because I think she's receiving her marching orders from Shaw Friedman. That's what I think. Again, I have heard some things, and unfortunately at this time, it's just, I've heard some things. I don't have any evidence. What I do have evidence of is she's deranged. It's just that simple. Listen to this hour-long rant about how everyone is out to get her, and she's the only one who cares about you. She's the only one who cares about the poor little voter. Everybody else is against her. Give me a break. Really? Every other person that you were perfectly fine with before you got elected, and as a matter of fact, have like worked well with in the past. That's a good question. And this is a good question too. Why is Molinaro at 80 and saying he wasn't going to run for the last 2 cycles, but yet here he is again? No offense, Earl. And that is an exceptional question. My particular belief is that Molinaro won't serve a full term. He will get on the ballot, he will exit out, and the caucus will replace whoever they want the spot or put it in the spot. That's my particular belief. I think that more than likely that's what's going to happen. And look, when people get to their 70s, 80s, 90s, why are you still in government? Retire, go spend time with your grandkids. I had the same issue with Laporte and the police department bringing in the chief who was like 75 years old. We have seen what happens when we have these eternal public servants. And what's really funny, another instance from this, again, unhinged rant, is she claims that there are various public servants, right? Public servants who don't even serve out their full term and want to hop from office to office. The lack of self-reflection here is stunning. She left in the middle of her county council term to run for commissioner. Again, the lack of self-awareness is really telling. So I don't know. I'm not sure what she thought, if she thought that people were going to be on her side. I'm not sure, but I've looked at the comments and many of them have been hidden, but out of the ones that are still there, I don't see anything going, yes, Connie, we're behind you. I see a whole lot that says, you suck. Like, yeah, it's, I don't see anything, unfortunately, that backs her. Unfortunately for her, I'm really glad. But unfortunately for her, I don't think it's going to get the reception that she thought. Dusty says, who brought her in, Gondar or Fikes? I believe it was Gondar. I think Gondar stepped down on commission, and she was caucused in 2018, I believe. That was, and then she lost re-election to Sheila Mateus. Although I don't know if she was Bergerson or Mateus at the time. No relation, by the way. My name does not have an S in it. We went through that a few election cycles ago where people thought I was related to the judge and her. No relation between me and the Bergersons. There's no S in my name. It is Bergeron. And it's quite common in Louisiana. It's a very well-known name down there. It's like Smith and Jones up here. But I'm not going to continue to pick apart her language, only because all you have to do is listen to it yourself. It's unhinged. It's an unhinged rant. And I genuinely felt bad for Rick Federici, who had to sit there and listen to this being spewed. And you can't, I mean, it's a paid political advertisement. She can say whatever she wants. But I noticed they played the disclaimer a lot. I don't blame them for that. I probably would have done the same thing, just in case. And in this case, it's just me, so I don't need my disclaimer. I stand by everything. She said, let's see here. Whoops. Yeah, exactly. Every time she got ready to spew, he'd play the disclaimer. Suzanne says when she saw it lost to Sheila, she never took her sign out of her yard, even after I called and emailed her. Interesting. She also never went to another commissioners meeting. Yes. So I did hear that once she lost to Sheila, she didn't bother to go to any commissioner meetings until she decided to run for it again. Look, the bottom line, I believe, is she got elected because people were tired of Sheila, not because they wanted Connie. And I'm just gonna get this out there because it happened. My wife ran in the primary against, it was my wife, it was Connie, and it was Nathan Patrick. After the primary was over, that was done. Wife lost, Connie won, we got behind her, right? But in her mind, we stood up to her, so we can't have that. And that's kind of where this whole political animosity comes from. I find it amusing at this point. I really do. What's the best part for me during the whole thing was her trying to shuffle blame around for things that she's directly responsible for. I mean, it's one of those situations where it's gaslighting, but it's truly mind-blowing the level of gaslighting that's going on here, because the sheer amount of stuff that she tries to shuffle onto the auditor's office, and might I add that she was a very vocal critic of not only Joey Winsky, but now she's going on there and talking really good things about not only Joey Winsky, but Randy Novak and certain other Democrats. So I wonder if she's making a play to change parties, because I know she's not welcome, as far as I'm concerned, at any Republican functions. I know that when she does go, there's only one, maybe two people that actually give her the time of day. I'm certainly not one of them. Look, guys, it's this simple. She goes on and on about how it's really important that we get back to civility and serving the people. None of the not serving the people would be happening if it wasn't for her. So we can't get rid of her yet, but what we can do, we can get Joe Haney reelected, and we can get Tim Stabos elected. So far, those are the only two people that I am confident are willing to stand up to her. It's just that simple. I don't know anything about this Marty Smith guy. I also don't know anything about Steve Hollyfield as far as governance goes. What I do know is Steve Hollyfield scheduled to come on the show. And then I don't know if he got a call from Connie and says she told him don't do it. But he picked the time, he picked the date, and then flaked out and canceled. So, yeah, Dusty says, I'd love to hear them tell her your motion dies for lack of a second. Yeah, she loves those words when it comes to Joe. Anytime Joe tries to bring forward something that's actually going to help, like, for example, the gentleman that was there, I don't have the name in front of me, but the gentleman that was there talking about Soldier Memorial Park in LaPorte getting cleared. He had raised half the money for it, over half. Joe proceeded to make a motion for the county to just do it, just go and get it cleaned up. No, just the sheer snottiness that was there was incredible. Yeah, she also preaches transparency when it's convenient for her, and that's absolutely true. I have never seen anything like this. During the meeting, King Richard was texting Courtroom Connie, and that's what they were doing back and forth. It's infuriating to watch this kind of behavior. And again, there's only two people that I can think of that have publicly stood up to her, and that is Joe Haney and Tim Stavos. I can't think of anyone else for these positions that have publicly stated, yeah, we're not going to go along with this. And to hear her talk about a toxic work environment, or to hear her talk about people being afraid, it brought a chuckle. It brought a chuckle. I mean, after the initial, is she serious? Did I hear that right? Go back. Because I know from personal experience, the fear has nothing to do with Joe Haney. As a matter of fact, Joe Haney worked hard to make sure that there was whistleblower protection for county employees who felt threatened, who felt like their jobs were at risk, who felt like it was a toxic work environment, hostile work environment, right? Joe Haney's the only one that worked on that. Thanks to his tireless devotion on this matter, we actually got something passed. Unfortunately, it's not as robust as it needs to be. It's not as robust as it could be. But remember, King Richard and Courtroom Connie were wholeheartedly against any sort of whistleblower protection. So for her to come out and talk about for her to come out and talk about a toxic work environment or being afraid is just a joke. So she addressed one more thing, and that was let's see. I want to make sure I get it right. MS4. So an MS4 position, I'm going to get to the bottom of that. There's a lot that I need to learn about the position and what actually happened. So I'm not going to get into that, but I can definitively refute some of the other crap. And unfortunately, we're stuck with this. There is no unless, oh, one more thing. What's really amusing to her is to hear her talk about Joe Haney signing something when she literally committed forgery. Just because the judge or prosecutor decided that it was such a horrible forgery that nobody's going to prosecute it doesn't mean she did not commit a crime. Period. End of story. She absolutely forged another commissioner's signature. Absolutely. Period. End of story. I wish we had some prosecutors with a spine. Let's just put it that way. I wish we had prosecutors with a spine, because if she's convicted of a crime, then we can get rid of her. Until then, there is no recall process. And again, I've heard some very disturbing things. So as it sits right now, I would like to put this out there. If you or somebody you know, if you have information, but you're afraid to bring it out yourself, send it to me. I will never tell people who you are, where the information came from. I got no problem breaking the story here. So there you go. It's mind-blowing that this is where we're at these days. And look, for all those people who, anyone who voted for her, you might be sitting there going, oh my God, what did I do? Right? I understand. I completely understand. Post-primary, I thought everything was good. I thought she'd be better than Sheila. Holy crap, man. Oh my God, the sheer level of unhinged raving that was in this. Oh my. So yeah. And Dusty brought up a good point. Anytime anything is brought to court here, it automatically goes to another county. And it's like, we got to get a prosecutor with a backbone that's willing to charge this stuff and not just pass it off to another county. She also brought up this lawsuit about, so for those of you who aren't familiar with what happened, so we elected a new prosecutor, Sean Fagan. He got in there and he wanted the emails from his office. Joe said, yeah, they belong to the prosecutor. State law says they belong to the prosecutor's office. They're just held on the county server. That's it. But they belong to the prosecutor's office. The Attorney General of the state of Indiana, Todd Rokita, also said they belong to the prosecutor's office. They tried to get a phone call with the Attorney General in order to get to the bottom of this before a lawsuit became necessary, to explain, look, legally speaking, you need to turn over these emails, because this entire thing came about because Sean Fagan, the new prosecutor, wanted all the emails from his office. He did not have access to all of them. He wanted them. Commissioner said in a 2-1, Connie and Rich against Joe, no, you can't have them. Send them to us. We'll go through them first. No. Why would that even be something that somebody thought they could do? Because she doesn't know the law and she doesn't know the rules. And like, I don't know. Anyway, before I go too off on a tangent, that's where that whole thing came from. And again, she seems to believe like she's in the right, like always, when legally speaking, she couldn't be more wrong. I don't know how many more years of Connie Gramarossa LaPorte County can afford. It's just that simple. I hope you have a great evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be back with some fun stuff very soon.
If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose. This has been Dion's Daily Dose, hosted by Dion Bergeron. Executive producers, Sean Holgram and Michael Beebe. Copyright 2024. Dion's Daily Dose, all rights reserved.